The infinite loneliness. You die. The moment stretches. Time stops meaning anything. And then you wake up in a void. There's someone there. Or something. They tell you that you're about to be reincarnated. Again. You've done this before. Thousands of times. Millions, actually. You've lived every human life that's ever existed. You were Napoleon. You were the soldier who shot him. You were the doctor who tried to save him. You were Einstein. You were Hitler. You were every victim in every gas chamber and every guard who turned the key. You are everyone who has ever lived. And that means you are completely, utterly, infinitely alone. This is Uncomfortable Theories. I'm your host, Janet Robinson. Act 1, The Egg. In 2009, science fiction author Andy Weir published a short story called The Egg on his personal website. It's only 2 pages long, 4 minutes to read. But it's been translated into over 30 languages and has developed a cult following that persists 16 years later. The story is simple. You die in a car accident. You meet God, or something like God, in a featureless void. God tells you that you're going to be reincarnated. This isn't your first time. You've been reincarnated many, many times before. And then God drops the revelation. Every human who has ever lived is you. You are Abraham Lincoln. You are John Wilkes Booth. You are Jesus. You are Judas. You are your own mother. Your own children. Every stranger you passed on the street, every historical figure, every person who ever drew breath. All you. The universe was created as an egg. A cosmic incubation chamber for a single soul, your soul, to mature by living every possible human experience until you've grown enough to be born as a god yourself. Weir said he wrote this story because he wanted to write a story where life was fair after all. The implication is beautiful. Every act of kindness you do to yourself. Every time you hurt someone, you hurt yourself. It's meant to inspire compassion, unity, the recognition that we're all one. But that's not the only way to interpret it. Let me show you a darker version. Act 2, The Absolute Loneliness. If you are everyone who has ever lived, that means you are the loneliest being in existence. Every conversation you've ever had was with yourself. Every relationship, romantic, familial, platonic, was just you interacting with another version of you that doesn't know it's you. Every time you fell in love, you were falling in love with yourself. Every time someone betrayed you, you betrayed yourself. That stranger who smiled at you on a bad day and made everything feel a little better? That was you, reaching across time to comfort yourself, neither version aware of the connection. But it's worse than that. Because if you're the only consciousness that exists, then nobody has ever truly understood you. Nobody could. They're all you, but they don't know it. They can't see you. They're just fragments of your vast consciousness, temporarily isolated, talking to other fragments. You have never had a genuine connection with another being. Not once. Not ever. Because there are no other beings. There's just you, alone in the void, living through every possible permutation of human experience in sequence, forever. Act 3, The Moral Nightmare. Now let's talk about the moral implications. If you are everyone, then you are both victim and perpetrator of every atrocity in human history. You were the child screaming in agony as soldiers murdered your family. And you were the soldier pulling the trigger. You were the person starving in a concentration camp. And you were the guard who denied them food. You were raped. And you were the rapist. You were murdered. And you were the murderer. Every act of cruelty you've ever experienced, you also inflicted on yourself in another lifetime. And here's where it gets truly disturbing. You needed both experiences. God, or whatever runs the system, tells you that the entire universe exists for you to mature, to grow, to learn every possible perspective. Which means you can't just live the good lives. You have to live the evil ones too. You have to be Hitler. You have to commit genocide. You have to torture. You have to rape and murder and destroy Not because you're evil, but because experiencing evil from the perpetrator's perspective is apparently necessary for your development. The suffering isn't accidental. It's required. You chose this. On some level, before you fragmented into billions of temporary identities, you agreed to experience every form of human suffering and inflict every form of human cruelty. And you're not done yet. Act 4. The infinity problem. Here's the next layer of horror. This never ends. According to the egg, you have to live every human life throughout all of time before you're born as a god. But time doesn't work the way you think it does in this framework. You're being reincarnated across all of history simultaneously from God's perspective. Linear time only exists within the universe, which means you're not progressing toward anything. You're trapped in an eternal loop. From outside the egg, all of human history happens at once. You're living every life simultaneously. The suffering doesn't end when you've lived every life because there is no after. There's only the eternal present where you are everyone, everywhere, experiencing everything, forever. You will never escape. You will always be the mother watching her child die. You will always be the soldier dying alone in a foreign land. You will always be the slave, the prisoner, the tortured, the abandoned. And you will always be inflicting that suffering on yourself. Act 5. The purpose horror. But why? The egg says it's for you to mature, to grow, to eventually become a god. But think about what that actually means. If you need to experience every possible human suffering to mature, then suffering isn't a flaw in the system. It's the entire point. Wars aren't tragic accidents, they're curriculum. Genocide isn't evil. It's a required course. Child abuse, torture, starvation, disease, all of it is deliberately designed into the fabric of reality because you, the only consciousness that exists, need to experience it from every possible angle. The universe isn't indifferent to suffering. It's worse than that. The universe is you, and you deliberately created a system that guarantees maximum suffering because that's the only way to mature into a god. You did this to yourself on purpose. And if this is what you're like as a developing god, what kind of god will you become when you're finally born? Act 6. No other. So let's review what the egg is actually describing. You are the only consciousness in existence. You are completely alone and always have been. Every relationship you've ever cherished was you talking to yourself. You have inflicted every act of cruelty in human history on yourself. You have experienced every form of suffering possible. You will continue experiencing it forever because time is simultaneous from outside the egg. You designed this system deliberately. And there is no escape. This isn't a beautiful story about unity and compassion. It's a description of the most horrifying solipsistic nightmare conceivable. You are trapped in an infinite cycle of self-inflicted suffering, completely alone, experiencing every possible permutation of human agony, forever, by choice. Because some version of you decided this was necessary. Conclusion. So what do you do with this information? Nothing. Because if the egg is true, you're already doing it. You're already living every possible response to this revelation across billions of lifetimes. Right now, in other lives, you're ignoring this. You're embracing it. You're building religions around it. You're committing suicide because of it. And none of it matters because you're just cycling through all possible reactions anyway. You can't escape yourself. You can't connect with anyone else because there is no one else. You are infinite loneliness experiencing itself. Forever. This has been Uncomfortable Theories. I've been your host, Janet Robinson. Question everything, trust nothing, and remember, if you're the only thing that exists, you'll never stop being alone.